Hello my friends and welcome to another video. I'm Chantel and I never introduce myself because I like to see us as friends having a conversation, continuing it from video to video. But every now and then I'm like, maybe I should say my name so people know how I pronounce it. I don't care if you pronounce it a different way, but that's how I pronounce it. Welcome here. We are going to be doing a TBR video today and I'm told by the calendar it is spring. But my window is before me and all I see is snow. So one thing I will not really be doing for my TBR is having a lot of spring related books. I'm seeing people's videos of their spring TBRs and mine is coming, but I feel like maybe things don't even need to be growing. Maybe there just needs to be a little bit less snow on the ground for me. So it's coming. It just will be a little bit later than most people because where I live, the snow sticks around forever. But I am wearing a floral shirt, of which I generally own many. I thought I would at least do this in honor of spring by the calendar, even though, like I said, it's not really here yet. Before I get into my TBR, I am viewing this TBR this time as more of a pile of possibilities. I made a mistake last month. I put way too many books on my TBR. I was in the mood for them at the time, and then now as I'm reading throughout the month, I'm not really in the mood for most of them. So we're gonna go into this as more of a pile of possibilities, maybe a little less books on the pile. But first I wanted to talk about some books that I have been reading for quite some time, and they're not gonna be in a wrap up anytime soon, and I'm gonna keep reading them, but I feel like I need to highlight them because I'm reading them / some of them have been for quite some time. So they are all non-fiction books of varying genres here. So I have The Story of Christianity. This is by Justo L. Gonzalez, and I got this book off of Book Outlet. I think they still have volume 1 and volume 2 in stock last I saw. I bought this about a year, maybe even 2 ago, and I was excited because I really want to know more about church history and stuff, but I'd never heard about it before until recently. I was listening to the Verity podcast and she raved about this as a great history book for the church history, and she said it was not dry at all. And so I'm not super far yet. I've had to prioritize a few other books, but I'm really enjoying it. There's lots of pictures throughout of different things that they're talking about, and it is not dry, but it took a little, I think until middle of chapter 2 or maybe the beginning of chapter 3, Jared asked me at one point how the book was going, and I was like, I'm not understanding anything, but I'm pressing on, hoping that I will soon. The beginning was just a little bit above me, but then since then I've just been really enjoying it, and yes, all the different pictures as well. So I'm reading this. This will be a multi-month journey, and then I will go on to volume 2. So this is the early church to the dawn of the Reformation. And I think I'm a bit more excited about volume 2, but I'm still liking this. Like tabbing a bunch of things here, taking notes, enjoying it. And then I did also start a book that I picked up from a little free library a few months ago. This is How to Read a Book, The Classic Guide to Intelligent Reading. And I think this was originally published in the 40s, 1940. And it's one that I've heard about in various circles over the years, and I found it in a little free library, so I picked it up. I'm not very far yet, but this is another one that's just kind of on my end table beside my couch, and I kind of picked this up as I want. So I don't really have much to say about that one yet, but it's another one I have on the go. Then for Christmas, I got Mom Heart Moments. This is Daily Devotions for Life-Giving Motherhood by Sally Clarkson. And I'm not a devotional kind of person. I generally feel like they're not deep enough. They're very shallow. But I make an exception for Sally Clarkson. I asked for this one for Christmas, got it. Once again, also tabbing all the things because there are just so many things that are really hitting me in the season. So if you are a mom of any age range, I think this is very applicable. Sally Clarkson wrote this in the last couple of years, now as she's a grandma, but she's also reflecting on when her kids were little and when they're older. And like I said, I'm just getting so much from this. They're only 1 page a day. So you just have 1 page to read. There's a Bible verse, then there's a little devotional and some questions. And I feel like it sticks with me a little bit more than regular devotions. I should also say I'm also reading the Bible, but I feel like that's always a given, always reading the Bible. 2 more books here. I have Friends, A Poem for Every Day of the Year. I started this about a year ago and fell off at various times, so I'm not really reading it based on the days because it's a poem for every single day. I'm currently reading April 10th. I only have a couple more months to read, and I've been reading generally a couple a day now. I really enjoy this edition, and I'm finding that I do own another one edited by Jane McMorland Hunter, and I really like her collection, so anything by her I want to collect, and really enjoy this. Highly recommend it if you like poetry or want to get into poetry at all. And the last nonfiction that I have kind of just continually going is Ella Montgomery's PEI years of her journals. So this is 1889 to 1900. I just barely shared a video where I was inspired by Ella Montgomery and her writing to continue with my poetry, and I just love learning about her. And I'm trying to take this journal slow because I know her general life story, and I know her life is going to get harder, and she starts out this book like so innocent and sweet, and I love who she is here, and it makes me sad knowing kind of what's in her future. So I think I'll probably read this slower than her upcoming ones, and I just want to sit in this season with her, but definitely loving this. And also it has lots of pictures. Of course, I can't find any right now. Just various things that she's talking about, places that she's gone, or people, class photos, and there is a bunch of notes at the bottom, footnotes on regards to like who these people are that she's talking about. She's very blunt and honest. I may try, I've thought about doing kind of a challenge to myself to journal like her for a month, but I would never be as blunt and honest as she is. There are just things that I feel bad for the people's descendants that are like, oh, that's my grandma or great relative, whatever, that she's talking about, and she's talking about how they have a petty streak. This is, there is such a mean petty streak in every one of them. Frank, I particularly detest. Like, I would hate for Frank to be some kind of relative of mine, but enjoying this. So those are a bunch I have on the go, and then I'm gonna come back shortly and we are going to go through my cards that I created a few months ago and pick some books that we're going to be, well, I'm going to be reading in this next month, or pile of possibilities that I might be reading, and also some different activities that I will be doing. We're gonna film this TBR video in a different spot than normal. Normally I sit on the floor by my TBR cart and my Agatha Christie, but I feel like this month I'm gonna wanna pull stuff out of these TBR shelves of mine. So that's what we're gonna do. I made myself a cup of tea. I was gonna say hot cocoa because that's just natural to come out of my mouth, but I actually made tea, and I love this mug. I got it from my friend Holly. Adventure, you say? Alpaca my bags, because a freshly shaved alpaca is one of my absolute favorite things in the world because they just look so awesome. They make me so happy. Totally unrelated. Okay, so if you haven't been here for the last few months, I made new cards for myself for my TBR, and I just need to reorganize them. There's 3 different piles, which I will quickly separate here and then tell you about them. So there's 3 different piles. One is just random prompts that will cause me to pick a book. I'm going to try to do 7 books total this month, going back to what I did in January, February for number of books. So that's what is this biggest stack. Then I have specific book recommendations that my patrons have given me. I'm doing at least one of these each month. And then I have various book related activities that also my patrons have kind of suggested for me. So I gotta separate these a bit. We're gonna start, what should we start by doing? We should start by picking a general book, but first, another thing I started doing in the last few months is picking a patron of the month. So someone that is in my Windy Poplars tier over on Patreon, they get all sorts of benefits, including a snail mail postcard from me. They get to pick a book from my owned TBR or a book off of my wish list, and I will read it. And so I'm gonna start with that. So my patron this month is Nancy, and the book she chose is The Words Between Us, which I am excited about because it's a book about books or a bookstore, and that is a video I just did, and it's something I love to read about. And Nancy has decided to buddy read this with me. My patron of the month also has the option to do a buddy read with me, something I'm not good at often. I can do in small doses, so I thought this is a way for people that want to read with me to be able to do that, and then I'm not overcommitting myself. So this is a book I will definitely get to in April, and this one has to do with, I'll just read the first couple sentences on the back here. It says, Robin Windsor has spent much of her life under an assumed name to avoid association with her infamous parents. She thought she'd finally found sanctuary running her used bookstore in quiet River City, Michigan. But when she receives an eerily familiar book in the mail on the morning of her father's scheduled execution, Robin is thrown back to the summer she met Peter Flint. So that sounds interesting. I don't know if this is scheduled execution, if that makes it historical in any way. I will find out as I go. So this is one I'm definitely going to be reading. And then I also need to pick a book for the Read Your Bookshelf challenge. So this year we're doing, you have to read the books in order because each prompt plays off of your previous one. So April's prompt is to read a book that is a different genre than your March book. And my March book was middle grade fantasy. So really, as long as I don't read middle grade or fantasy, I could pick any kind of book for that. So as I go here, I mean, this could even be it. Maybe I should just choose. Maybe this will be it. This is my patron book of the month, my patron of the month book, plus my Read Your Bookshelf book. There. Easily solved. Those are the two books, slash this time one book, that I'm trying to read each month. It's also very cold in my office, so wearing I've just been wearing sweaters all winter, and wearing a t-shirt is not really helping me here, so I've got to hold my tea in between. So then for April, March was middle grade March, and someone commented on I think it was my March TBR video, that in April they're going to try to read a bunch of YA books. And honestly, at this point, I'm kind of failing at middle grade March. I mean, they say if you read one, you're good. So I've done at least one. I've done more than one, but I feel like I wanted to read more. Maybe I still will. But I do want to read a bunch of YA in April because I have some books that have been waiting for me, some books my daughter wants me to read. So I'm going to try to pick some of those as well. So what I'm going to start with is just a general prompt that will make me pick a book. We'll see if I can find a book that I'm interested in that fulfills this prompt. I just using the whole stack today, just picking a random one. Let's do this one. Okay, we're starting off with a bang. Can you read that? That says 500 plus pages, which isn't a bad thing because I am in the mood for big books, but as the first card, that's a little bit intimidating. Okay, I'm gonna grab, oh, I have so many options. I'm gonna grab a couple books. Okay, so I have two books from my shelves, one book that's coming from Book Outlet, and one book that's coming from the library. They're gonna be my 4 options. I'm gonna tell you what they are, and then we'll do a random number generator to pick between them because I just don't know if I can pick myself. So the one that I have coming from Book Outlet, actually I'm not sure if it is over 500 pages. Let me just double check. So the Book Outlet one is only 447. So that one won't count. I know some books in that series are more, but we'll ignore that one. The next one that I'm getting from the library is, should I double check to make sure this is, I feel like it's gonna be way over. Okay, yeah, I was right. It's what, 602 pages. That's Catherine of Aragon. That one is the first book in the Tudor Queens series. So I recently just hauled 3 of them. They're the blue, orange, and pink one. And I'm getting book 1 from the library. So that's option 1. Non-fiction-ish. Some fiction added in. But the story of the first of King Henry VIII's wives. Then here I have Crank. This is over 500 pages, but it's deceiving because it is written in verse. And this is by Ellen Hopkins. And I don't know a whole lot about it. I think it's about drug addiction. And I have a few of her books on my shelf that I would like to give a try, see if I want to collect more of them, because I always find them at used bookstores and stuff. So this will be option number 2. And then number 3 is Babel or Babel. We were really looking this up the other day, me and my daughter, like, how do you pronounce this? Because growing up, when the pastors would read, they would say Babel. But Babel makes sense because they all were different languages were put on them, right? So then it would sound like a Babel. And it turns out that both ways are okay. Babel, I think, is normally the UK way to say it, and Babel is like the American way. So I'm gonna go with Babel because it makes the most sense. Although I wonder how the author would pronounce it. And this is set in 1828, and it is apparently like a little bit more historical fiction, but it does have some fantasy elements having to do with language, and it's set in Oxford in 1828. So that sounds really amazing to me. So this will be option number 3. And I will find my phone and we will do a random number generator. Number 1 is going to be the Tudor Queens one. Number 2 will be Crank. And number 3 will be Babel. But I think I left my phone upstairs, so I just gotta grab that. I've got my random number generator. I'm gonna change it to 3 options. See if we can focus on that. See if we can hit generate. Number 1. Okay, so that's the one that's coming from the library. That is the Tudor Queens. And we will start that series. That's exciting. Okay, so 500 plus pages as the first / second book on my TBR for the month. I probably will allow myself, if this book is very heavy, to take it over a longer period of time, but we'll see. I've never read anything by Alison Weir, and I've heard good things about her writing, so it is exciting to start that series. If maybe just a little bit overwhelming. Next, we're going to pick an activity. So these are just random, mostly bookish related activities that my patrons have suggested. And every month I give them the opportunity to add more suggestions in. So I'm always adding stuff in. Okay, let's pick this one. It says, oh, this is so perfect. Visit a bookstore you've never been to before. 100% yes, that sounds great. This one was suggested by Charlene, and I have 2 options for this. There is a local bookstore that I've never been to that's in a sketchy area of town that I hung out in a lot when we were fostering. But now that we're not, I don't really like to go there very much, so that's an option. Another option is we are taking a trip in April. We are going to Edmonton, and I mean, it would be cool to do a video sharing a bookstore there, or maybe I would have to go to more than one. This will be a video at some point in April. That's perfect timing. Love it. We will go back to the random prompts. So I have 2 books, and I said I was going to do 7. Pick a random one here. This one. A book you've previously DNF'd. Ooh. I'm gonna have to look at my shelf. I don't know if I have any here, or we'll see. We'll see. I'll look. I found one. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar... Oh, man, I was doing so good in the last year saying this word. Peculiar Children. Nailed it. I don't know why that one is so hard. I got this out from the library years ago when this was closer to when it was published, 2011. A few years after that. And I randomly picked this up recently and thought I would give it another try. It is a YA series that's very strange. I do believe that these are real Victorian pictures throughout here, and I don't know if they are used in the story, or they may not all be Victorian, but like old photographs that the author uses, and I've just been curious about it. This book is in perfect condition. The receipt from the person that bought it is still in here. Maybe they gave it as a gift, but the person never opened it. So I'm going to check this out. I'm going into it knowing it's going to be strange, and then we'll see where it goes. So I'm glad that worked out. This is like a YA book too, which is what I was kind of going for. Very, very curious about this book. If you guys have read it or the series, I'm curious to know your thoughts and predictions on whether or not I will like it. Definitely a book, one of the books I'm the most curious about. Next up, we're going to go on to the stack of these specific book recommendations that my patrons have given me. And if I pick another one by Sarah, I'm going to feel like it's rigged, but I'm doing the thing here, and it's not rigged, but somehow I always pick a Sarah book. So, and a lot of these I've never heard anything about. I'll probably get the book for the library. Let's try this one. It's by Sarah, or from Sarah, suggested by Sarah. Starfish by Lisa Phipps. I think I've seen this cover. I think this might be a middle grade book. I'm gonna look it up. That is too funny. How? I don't understand, you guys. So this won was a nominee for the Best Middle Grade in Children's Award by Goodreads in 2021, which honestly is a little discouraging because I don't normally like the books that Goodreads has on there, like Goodreads Choice Awards. Elliot is tired of being fat shamed and does something about it in this debut novel in verse. Oh, it's a novel in verse. Well, that's right up my alley. So it's categorized on Goodreads as both middle grade and YA. So I will get this one from the library as well. Sarah always has really great recommendations, and this will be probably a little less heavy than her recommendation that I picked out last month. I think we're gonna have to do another Patreon recommendation though. I have to give some other people a chance. She doesn't even have like that many more suggestions than the average person. I don't know how this happens every time. Okay, we're gonna pick another random one. This, ooh, I dropped one, has an animal on the cover. Okay, yes, you have a loud truck, thank you. This one was a recommendation from Lindsay, or a suggestion, so I need to find a book with an animal on the cover. I found two options that are currently calling to me. So we've got Uprooted that I found in a used bookstore. Most people tell me Spinning Silver is better. This one maybe has a few scenes that I'm not going to enjoy. That's what I know going into it. There is a falcon or something on here, plus dragons. So that's an option. Oh, my battery's gonna die, and then I'll change it and then tell you the next book. Okay, the other option I had was Red Rising. Don't know anything about this really, except everyone loves it. I think it's YA fantasy or maybe adult fantasy. That's all I know. But then I also realized that Babel also has birds on the cover. Quite a few, actually. So there's that. And in case you didn't see, there's like a wing on the cover of this one. So that's what I'm counting as an animal. We will go to the random number generator, and we will go in this order, 1, 2, 3. And we will see what it picks this time. Okay, there's my number from last time. I honestly cannot tell if that generated and it just picked number 1 or if it did not. Let's see, let's try that again. Okay, that one definitely worked. We'll go with that one. That means Red Rising is on this list. When I was looking for this one at the bookstore when I bought it, I couldn't find it. I thought this was gonna be like a much thicker book. It's under 400 pages for a fantasy book. That is very strange. It is the first book in a series, and I think the books get progressively thicker. What is this? His wife taken, his people enslaved. Driven by a longing for justice and a memory of lost love, Darrow will stop at nothing to bring down his enemies, even if he must become one of them to do so. For the first time, red will rise. Okay, I don't know. So it is adult fantasy. It's got a cool looking map that I'll look at the beginning and then never look at it again. Okay, we're gonna go back to another activity. And then I think we have 2 more books for me to pick. Let's do whatever this one is. Make an audiobook recording of a favorite book as a family. This was suggested by Robin. This sounds like a lot of fun. So together as a family, we will record an audiobook. I have to think of which book we're gonna do for that. Get everyone involved. A fun idea. That's cool. Very creative too. I like that. We're gonna go back to the Patreon specific book recommendations. If this is another Sarah one, I might put it back in the stack so that other people get a chance. She can't have that many more in here. Which one's not a Sarah one? This one. This is definitely the winner. Okay, it's not by it's not by Sarah. It's from Ashley. Kingdom of Russes, I think is how you say it, by Kate Stradling. Now, this one is, I think, on Kindle Unlimited, which of course mine just finished. My trial just ended, or I just canceled my subscription. That's what I'm trying to say. But Kate Stradling, I think she wrote the legendary Inga, which I read recently and really, really enjoyed. A very underrated fantasy book. And so this would be probably another fantasy by her. I will look up the description. So this is the start of a series. This is book 1 in a series. Viola's life is a well orchestrated lie. Okay. Viola's life is a well orchestrated lie. There we go, that was better. For generations, her family has fabricated the existence of the Eternal Prince, a mysterious and powerful protector who watches over the small kingdom of Lenore. This practiced deception cracks, however, when a nameless stranger stumbles across the truth and promptly assumes the prince's identity. Very creative. The cover that Goodreads is showing me is not as good as I know the cover is. I will have a much nicer cover up here. So I think this is book 6, which means I need 1 more book, but I'm gonna do an activity and then a book. Shuffle these up. There are some mean activities in here too, and I did give them permission to be as mean as they wanted. But let's see. This one. Read a book in 1 day. Another Lindsay one. Like seriously, I always just pick the same people in a row. Read a book in a day. Well, it's not going to be the Alison Weir book, that's for sure. I will maybe attempt it with one of the books on my TBR, or maybe I'll pick up a book that would be a little bit easier. None of them so far are super short, but if I have enough time, it should be okay. So that will probably also be in a video in April. And now we're going to do 1 more random prompt. Let's see what book I get next. This one. An alliterative title. Another Robin suggestion. I tell you, it's always the same people in a row. Okay. So alliteration is the same letter, like starting with the same letter. Is 2 an alliteration, or does it have to have more than 2 of like 2 words? 2 or more words? Am I making any sense? I know what I'm trying to say in my brain. And because I want to do this right, I'm gonna Google it, because I Google everything. The occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. Sweet birds sang is their example here. I feel like that's not a very good example. So it has other common alliterative words. Cream of the crop, French fry, hit the hay, pecan pie, supersize. So 2 is enough. So 2 or more. Okay, let's see what I can find. I would think that I have more than just one on my shelves. Sometimes I feel like I'm really blind. Oh, I didn't look at my Agatha Christie. Well, I found one anyway, and it was one that I was hoping to read in the spring. I obviously have not cleaned this since I got it from the Little Free Library. This is a very springy title. Magic for Marigold. Springy title. I meant also springy picture. And Ella Montgomery's So Can You Lose? I think this will be my alliterative title. I was also thinking like middle grade would probably have, I feel like middle grade does that more often. They would probably have more options, but I found this one. So this is going to be the one that I read. So this is the eccentric Leslie family could not agree on what to name Lorraine's new baby girl, even after 4 months. Oh, poor girl. Lorraine secretly liked the name Marigold, but who would ever agree to such a fanciful name as that? When the baby falls ill and gentle Dr. M. Woodruff Richards saves her life, the family decides to name the child after the good doctor. But a girl named Woodruff? How how fortunate that Dr. Richards' seldom used first name turns out to be Marigold. Oh, it's Dr. M. Woodruff. Okay, I get it now. A child with such an unusual name is destined for adventure. It all begins the day Marigold meets a girl in a beautiful green dress who claims to be a real-life princess. Well, it's Ella Montgomery, so I feel like it's going to be good. That will be the last book on my stack. So I have 4 books plus Kingdom of Russes, Starfish, and my 500 plus page book, which is one of the Tudor Queens books. I was just looking through my other Tudor Queens books and they're all like around the 500 page mark or under or just over, and the one I'm getting is 600 pages, so it's bigger than all of these. So that is my TBR for the month of April, kind of with one more book added in. I was hoping I could make this work, but my daughter really wants me to read All Fall Down. She has been reading this series by Ali Carter. It's an Embassy Row novel. That's what the series is. I don't really know what it is, but she has been loving it and she wants me to read it. Right at the beginning here on the back it says, Grace Blakely is absolutely certain of 3 things. 1, she is not crazy. 2, her mother was murdered. 3, someday she's going to find the killer and make him pay. And this has one of the most intriguing first sentences I've ever heard. When I was 12, I broke my leg jumping off the wall between Canada and Germany. Oh, this isn't even the whole sentence, I say. But the woman across from me doesn't even blink. Yeah, and I know because of her, I know a little bit about where that is coming from, but it's very intriguing, that's for sure. So technically, I guess I'll have like 8 books on my TBR because she's been really nagging me and I promised her I would read it in April, so I have to read this one as well. Yeah, so let me know what you're reading this month, what you think of the books that I'm reading, any predictions on what I'll like and not. I'm always excited to hear from you guys. So thanks for being here, and an extra special thank you to all my patrons for giving me all these suggestions and just supporting my channel and my family. I appreciate it so much.